Hey guys, welcome to the shop. In today's video, I want to build a workbench for my miter saw. It's going to be a drop style table that'll allow this to sit below the side extensions that'll make feeding wood out from the table a lot easier. We're going to be using 2x4 8-foot sections, cutting down these to make both the top of the frame as well as the legs of the frame. And then for the tops of the cabinets, I'll be using 3/4 inch sanded plywood that I can finish off, put in tracks, and also use the same wood to make guides to help keep the wood aligned and also put stops on in the tracks for repeated cuts. So with that, I'm going to get the process started. We're going to start by cutting down the legs and the sides. So now that I've got all the lumber cut up for the frame, the next step is going to be to put in pocket holes and then join these with both screws and glue to make a nice, firm, strong base. For the next portion of the assembly, what I want to do is create the end pieces for both the left and right cabinets for the miter station. Here I've got the layout for the end. And what I'm going to do is attach the front and back to the top and to the bottom using screws in the pocket holes. I'm also going to put some glue down here to really strengthen this up, since I am going to be building shelving to store things under the cabinets eventually. I need to figure out how to fasten these down. So I have a couple of different options. I can either come down through the top with screws, which would be the simplest way to do it, or I could use a pocket hole jig down below and create pockets for the screws to hold the table up from the underside. Either option would be fine. Another option is I could glue the surface down to the top, weight it down, and let it dry. However, I'm not a big fan of that option, because if I want to switch this top out at some point, like say it becomes damaged or I just want to refresh it, if it's glued down to the surface below, it pretty much is unmovable and would create a big mess to remove. So definitely not going to glue it down. The question is whether I'll screw it from the top or do pocket holes from the underside. So next step will be to put edge trimming around the top here just to clean up this exposed plywood edge. So I'm going to use poplar strips for that. You can buy a 1x6 or 1x8 sheet of poplar and then rip it down to whatever width you want. But I chose just to buy the 1x2 boards just to save a little bit of time. After we do that, then we are going to put together the center section. So I made it 28 inches wide. So these will be the cross pieces that go right in here. And then we'll have pieces that go front to back here. There will be one in the center and one on each side for bracing. We're going to drop the table down a total of 3 inches, and that should bring the fence and the base of the saw just level with this work surface. Also want to get everything leveled up really nicely. The tables right now are pretty level, just sitting right here, but I want to level it side to side over the complete distance of the table. Should be good to go. We'll be adding fences after that and then finishing up with the tracks. And here's a little hack for you. If you have a piece that's not quite in square, what you could do is take a speed square and clamp it down to the bottom. We need a clamp right here to keep it from shifting this way. We need a clamp right there to push the surface down and work that edge over. It was out of square by about 1/8 of an inch from edge to edge, and so I took these 2 speed squares, clamped them into place. I'm going to let the glue set up and everything should turn out really nice. Right guys, we're in the home stretch now. With the workbench pretty much done, I've got the table saw set in the middle. I'll need to mount this down. So a couple things before I do that. First, I want to position it side to side pretty much equally. And then as far as how far front or back, I don't want it sticking out so far that it's going to get in the way while I'm working. But I also don't want it so far back that I have to lean over to make my cuts. So I feel like that's pretty close for positioning. The next thing I want to do is just double check that the saw is level with the outfeed part of the workbenches on either side. And to do that, I've just laid a piece of T-track here to look underneath. And I did see earlier when I checked this, a little gap right here. So we'll need to shim one of the sides to make this completely level and flush with the surface. Following that, we're going to be putting in fence guides coming out of either side of the miter saw, extending down each table to guide the wood as it comes off of the saw. And then I'll install this T-channel. This is a universal T-track that I'll use for stops along the way to make repeat cuts a lot easier. And to do that, I'll need to route out a channel to allow this to mount flush. I'll be using a portable router with a 3/4 inch straight bit to do that. I'll just need to set the depth of the bit to match the depth of the channel to get it nice and flush. So I want to do a quick test cut before I do that. So I think at this point we're ready to get these fences started. So here it is, the miter saw workbench is now fully done. There are a few finishing touches that I'll put on it, like building maybe some better stops to go in the T-tracks. But it's really nice having these T-tracks in place to be able to make repeated cuts. For instance, if I wanted to put this board on and cut a number of boards to this length, I now have a stop back here that would allow me just to rest it up against that. And then when the cut's done, this is not falling onto the floor as before. Kind of a cool feature with the bench too. I want to take this camera off for a second and just show you this. Is that along the back side of the fence, I've got some storage here. So it's kind of nice to be able to have a tape measure and safety glasses just right within reach, so that I always would want to use those. And then as I mentioned before, the fences are removable, so I can take these off, and then I will have a nice flat surface right here to be able to do some work. These are also removable, just on T-tracks. So the build time for this bench was somewhere around 6 to 8 hours. It actually could have gone a little shorter, except I did make a mistake when I was doing routing. I want to show that to you. So I was routing in the channel right here for this table, and that actually was going pretty well, except right at the very end, my guide shifted, and so this is the actual table that was there before. And you could see how nice and crooked that routing line came. And it just looks terrible through there. So there's no way to fix this. I had to pull this section off and completely replace it with another section. So that did add to the build time just a little bit. One of the things that I'm thinking about doing with this is building some cabinets along in here and possibly some drawers in this middle section. But for right now, I like to keep it open, just to have accessibility in terms of storing stuff and having my dust collector hose back there. And I might do some other things to finish off this space. So the other thing I'm planning to do with this bench is to install some measuring tape. So I do have a left to right, as well as a right to left measuring tape, and I think I'll put those along the fence. I'm also thinking about putting a trim piece on top here, so I might do something like right along the top with the Craig tape. I haven't decided yet, or I could just inlay it right here. And then the other thing that I will do with this, before I call it done, is to put a nice polyurethane coat on top of this wood. I like the color, this light color, and I know that as wood ages, it tends to darken or yellow, and I want to preserve this color as long as I can. So that's really all I have for this. I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been such a fun project to build and to film the process so I could share it with you. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more about my shop build out and have an interest in woodworking or DIY or tools, feel free to subscribe, because I am posting a lot more content on this channel and I want to build it up. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.